Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Leafs Convo Podcast presented by Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is the first collab between myself and the one and only Michael P. Augello from Cheektowaga, New York in 2020. It is January 1st. Happy New Year, and these are happy days for your Maple Brothers. Winners of 7 of 8, another victory in Minnesota on the final day of 2019, a 4-1 win. Michael, Happy New Year to you. Happy new Leafs year, and who knows what's to come.
Happy New Year, Norm. It's they're stepping into this new decade on a hot streak. 13-4-1 under Sheldon Keefe with the victory last night. Leaf fans hope that it's going to be the roaring 20s for the Leafs because it's a decade that with the star players that they have, that they should have some success. And right now under Sheldon Keefe, they seem to be enjoying that success. But we know that when it comes to the playoffs, what they're doing right now and what they'll have to do to have success there are two different things. But right now, fans are just enjoying it.
Well, over the last month and a bit, certainly under Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs have elevated themselves to much more important status. Winners of 8 of 10, points in 8, now with 49 points on the season in 41 games. You know they're going to eclipse the 100-point plateau. 9 points behind the Boston Bruins. That's the team they're chasing. Let's go a little bit into the game against Minnesota. One of the things Sheldon Keefe mentioned after the game was over, a 4-1 win over the Wild, is that the way the Leafs retain the puck seemed to take the wind out of the sails of the Wild. And the more you have the puck, the better the chance you have of succeeding in the game. It wasn't a perfect game by any means, but the Leafs did what they had to do on the road. And when the Leafs have the puck with all that talent, all that firepower, they're tough to beat.
Yeah, after 2, I think, subpar games for him, Freddie Anderson really played well. Your point was that they didn't, at times, didn't play great, but they did possess the puck well. They did get the 2 goals in the first period. The goal at the end of the first, I think, was particularly deflating for the Wild. And then after they scored the 3rd goal, I thought that the Wild started to show some, fortitude. They started stepping up their physical game. Marcus Foligno with a couple checks, and they got back into it for a time, but their puck possession is something that if they can maintain it against a furious forecheck, or if they can maintain it in the defensive zone and not make turnovers, it is something that will take away the wind of another team. And they played a pretty solid road game, not a shutdown game because Minnesota had their chances, but enough that they limited them. And in the 3rd period, up 3-1, I think it was Greg Millen who was doing the color commentary, says, I don't feel comfortable with this 2-goal lead. And that's based on what they've done before. But this time against the Wild team, they were able to neutralize them at times and hold on.
You should never be comfortable with any lead. Who knows what can happen? And when you're playing against the Leafs, you should never be comfortable playing against them because they're just so darn talented. Tavares and Nylander continue to click. Nylander with a game winner in 3 straight now. That ties Matt Sundin going way back. I mean, he's on a real positive run right now. Really good for his game in terms of not only picking up points, but making him feel like he's a serious part of what's going on here. John Tavares reaping a lot of benefits in playing with Nylander, and likewise, both players with another 3-point game. And then Auston Matthews, I mean, he's right there, number 2 in goal scoring, 27 on the season. And say what you will about Auston Matthews and his 200-foot game, at least over the last little while, and this sort of typifies what the team's been up to. They've been very consistent offensively. Again, taking themselves from out of the playoffs into a divisional playoff spot right now. And if all they have to do is stay consistent, Mike, and they're going to be knocking at the Bruins' door sooner rather than later.
Possibly. I mean, the Bruins, they're 9 points ahead, and the Bruins have played badly over the last month. So once they sort of get back on track, I think they're probably going to end up running away with the division. I think the prize for this division is going to be second place, at least for the remaining teams other than the Bruins. And if the Leafs can get second place, that's home ice advantage in the first round. I'm not saying they can't catch the Bruins, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe. But that being said, I look at this team and I look at what yesterday. You had Jason Spezza step up into a third line center role between Engvall and Kapanen. And I thought that line at times was very effective. Now, I don't think he can play that role all the time. A third line center usually plays between 13 and 14 minutes. And I think they want to limit Spezza to around 10 minutes since he's, 36 years old. But they've had to augment things because Kerfoot has stepped up on the left wing with the absences in the injuries to Mikheyev and Moore and Janssen. So right now, you have players playing out of position or players playing in roles that they don't particularly see them as going forward. Martin Marincin playing period is a role that shouldn't be happening, but it has to because Jake Muzzin's going to be out for at least a few weeks. But they're still winning. They're still earning points with players playing out of position, and that's a good thing. And that right now they're riding their stars. Tavares, Matthews has been very consistent with his goal scoring of late, and Nylander. I know that people love to bash us back when we're criticizing Nylander. When Nylander's playing well, I have no criticism. He's playing great right now. He's scoring goals. He is contributing offensively. He made a great pass on the Matthews goal, cross the crease to Matthews for a one-timer. When he plays like that, you can't complain. The problem is you see these gaps where he doesn't play that way, and that's when I have problems.
Who cares? It's not the Nylander show. Some fans just revolve their fandom around a particular player, and that's their right. Good for them. I mean, we're all Leaf fans. I suppose we're all on the same team, kind of. I have nothing against William Nylander at all. He's been playing well. No criticism. I love the fact that he's contributing to the greater good of what's going on with his club, and I want to see him elevate other players' games the same way they're helping take his game to the next level. It's all fine and dandy right now, but I think this team is going to face a real adversity down the stretch when things get more divisional, when other teams get hot. The Leafs start to hiccup a little bit. That when the chips are down, Mike, let's see what these guys can do, because that's what's really going to tell the tale about their season. This is the Leafs Convo Podcast for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Want to say welcome to Rob and Deb Andrews of Ilderton, very instrumental with the Ilderton Jets, as well as the Lucan Irish, local hockey teams in this area. Joining Team Oak Ridge Ford when it comes to a 2019 Ford Edge. I always like that. If you know anybody who wants to join Team Oak Ridge Ford and Team the Leafs Convo, let me know inside community. Speaking of, I wished everyone a happy new year. I wanted everyone who frequents the community platform to take a second to share some of their favorite and not so fond Leafs moments and memories from 2019. It seemed to morph into a recollection of everything that happened over the past decade. Auston Matthews scores his 40th goal of his rookie season into an empty net versus Pittsburgh. The camera goes to his parents. Do you remember that, Mike?
Yes, I do. And it's funny because I wrote on Christmas and Boxing Day. I did an all-decade team, and that sort of revealed. I mean, honestly, for a lot of Leaf fans, I think they've blocked out a lot of the 2010s because it was so painful. And you break down the all-decade teams, and Matthews was my first-line center. And somebody said, well, why isn't Nazem Kadri? I says, well, Nazem Kadri was an honorable mention. Tyler Bozak was the second team center. And somebody asked me why I did that. And I says, well, you have to take the cumulative effect here. Bozak was a number one center, third line center, and a power play specialist the second half of the decade. And Kadri, even though he was the leading scorer, he created two complete faux pas in the playoffs that could have cost the Leafs a playoff win. So you have to sort of counterbalance things. And I look at Auston Matthews and what he has done now this is his fourth season, and just see, what the future holds. I mean, this is probably the brightest star that this organization has had since Daryl Sittler. And I am overlooking Matt Sundin because I think Matt Sundin at times was sort of a limited player. And I know a lot of people, I don't like my criticism of Sundin, but I still believe that. But Sittler was a star. And I think that Auston Matthews is also a star, and they also have another star in John Tavares. So that speaks well to the future of this team.
Matt Sundin with over 1,300 career points, more than a point per game, Mike. Come on.
I know.
Enough of the Matt Sundin dislike. He's the man. He scored so many big goals at crucial times. Just watch Watch a highlight reel on YouTube and then share it in community. Armorell, thank you very much for that comment. I should think we should just end the podcast now, Mike. I'm so upset. Is it an age thing? Come on, Mike. I've had enough of this. That's it. I'm going on Twitter. I'm going to bash you.
Okay.
Lord Longmarch. I would have to say the Carolina game was a watershed moment in this Leafs season. It showed the players, even if behind, there's a chance to win because of the firepower.
If I had to pick a watershed moment for this organization in this decade, it was the season opener in 2016 when Matthews scored the 4 goals.
Yeah.
Because until that point, you didn't know. Like, first picks overall, you don't know until they play a couple seasons whether they're going to be a success or not. I mean, I think Jack Hughes is going to be a great player with the Devils, but got off to a very slow start, and that just raised questions with Devils fans. With the Leaf fans, it was the first game, 4 goals, Joe Bowen going, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, rightly so, because nobody had ever done that before. And you just knew that this was a star. And he has been. So, I mean, I think that was the sort of turning point of the decade, that the organization finally listened to people like me who said you had to tank, you had to get top draft picks. They did. They got Marner, they got Matthews, they got Nylander, and they're on their way.
I'm glad that Dubas has you on speed dial, Mike.
Yeah, okay. My good buddy Kyle.
Matthews is hungry for goals. He's hungry for accolade. He's hungry for attention. Wait till that guy's hungry for a championship. Look the FL. War Daddy, decade moment, Norm. December 4th, 2018, at Buffalo. Mike's hometown. Kapanen drops the puck back to Matthews just inside the attack zone. 2 seconds left in the game. Matthews does his famous mini pull deke with the puck and rips it into the 1 hole for the win. Freaking incredible and timeless.
I was there, and 1 second left in overtime. And yeah, it was a great goal. I mean, the thing is, I think for the long-term future of the franchise, being able to win in Buffalo, and I know because I'm here and I've seen many a Leaf defeat in Buffalo. When you're playing a team 4 times in the regular season and potentially in a playoff scenario, which they could be in the future if the Sabres ever make the playoffs. They need to win on the road. And for some reason, there's been a mental block about the Leafs winning in Buffalo. And that game was a key in terms of maybe breaking that mental block.
Oh, it used to be the hot sauce blue cheese arena and the Buffalo House of Horrors. I think it still is. Be careful. Be careful. The Leafs still have a long way to go, but it's fun watching them get there. Chris Smith, Happy New Year's to you and your family, and go Leafs go. Thank you very much, Chris. That goes both ways. And Murray Lindsay, love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Who replaces Soup, Marchman or Bracco? I want to see either of them. That's a big question. Who replaces Soup, Mike?
I mean, the news from last weekend from Elliot Friedman would let you believe that it's probably not going to be Bracco. Bracco is a right winger. He's not a left winger. There is a difference in terms of, if you're a right-hand shot or left-hand shot, and if you fit into the construct. I think Bracco realizes he's blocked right now because he's playing behind Nylander, Kapanen, and Marner. Unless one of those are traded, Bracco is not going to be able to break into the top 9. And he's a top 9 player. He's not a guy who I think fits in a 4th line role. So Marchman, I thought he had an outside chance of making this team out of training camp. The problem is he got hurt in the first preseason game and was out for the rest of camp in about 2 months. And he's playing now with the Marlies, but he's going to have to sort of build up his strength and build up his stamina. I would say maybe by the deadline, they would take a look at him as a potential option on the right side, on the left side. The one thing you saw from last night, and I made a comment, and of course, had got some negative feedback. The Leafs could use the Leafs could use a guy like Marcus Foligno. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Foligno because Marcus Foligno makes almost $3 million, and for his role, that's overpriced. But they could use a big winger who likes to bash because they have nobody like that. And they really, in a playoff scenario, needs at least 1 or 2 players like that who can fulfill that role. I know that people were saying Josh Anderson from Columbus, and I'm all for that. You probably know him, Norm, because he played with the Knights.
I do.
He's been a force at times in the league. He's not having a good year this year. He's coming up. His contract is up after this year. I don't know if he's RFA or UFA, but when you have all the same type of players, and that's why guys like Engvall and Mikheyev are very valuable to the Leafs, because they're different type of players playing with a lot of smaller forwards. It helps those other forwards. So if you can get a big winger, and I think that might be something that the Leafs will look at, if not before the deadline, then maybe in the summer, I think it really helps the overall team. So I'd like to see Dubas go out and do that, and maybe he will.
6 degrees of separation. Do you know who knows Josh Anderson well? Rob and Deb Andrews of Ilderton, who just joined Team Oak Ridge Ford and Team Leafs Convo with the purchase of their 2019 Ford Edge. Mike, it's all coming together for us. Just a couple of minutes. Justin Holl's extension, $2 million average annual value. I read from the know-it-alls that's too much. I read from the know-it-alls that Mitch Marner keeps making too much. Mike, everybody knows more than the people who make the decisions, but I like this decision.
A couple weeks ago, I wrote, because you looked at the picture of the Leafs defense going into the summer. 5 UFAs, the 3 biggies, Muzzin, Ceci, Barry, and then Hall and Marincin. Now you can let Marincin go back to Slovakia.
Sure.
That's fine. I think Cody Ceci is not going to be somebody that they re-sign. Maybe one of Muzzin or Barry, depending on how their financial situation is in the summer. But Travis Dermott's an RFA. They're going to get him signed probably to a bridge deal. Hall was somebody that we knew under Babcock was going to be limited in terms of his playing time, but under Keefe, who he's played with for over 3 years, he's used him. He's utilized them in the top 4. He's playing a role. He's playing it very well. A couple weeks ago, I said, if you look at the model of what kind of contract they should sign him to, it was Michael Kempney and Nick Jensen with Washington after they acquired them in trades from Chicago and Detroit. They signed him to 4-year deals at around $2.5 million, and that's not a big cap hit. These players for Washington are 5'6" defensemen. Hull is probably going to be a 4, 5, or 6 with the Leafs. And $2 million is perfect. So I think it's a very good deal for Kyle Dubas, a very good deal for the Leafs, and a very good deal for Justin Holl.
It's nice to see players emerge. That's what they're supposed to do. You can't expect the top 4 or 5 guys to be the guys and the only guys. You have to have other players emerge to help support the top players. Mm-hmm. And Justin Holl, perfect timing for this guy, because the defense is suspect to begin with. And good on him for taking the puck and running with it. 18 minutes and a second of ice time against the Wild. Shorthanded ice time, of course, it's crucial for all defensemen to be able to be out there and get the job done. Just over a minute. More and more, his workload is increasing, and it's nice for him to have a coach like Sheldon Keefe to have that confidence in him and facilitate and enable his success. And so far, so great. We really have to go, but I wanted to get to our Leafs Convo poll, the last of 2019, first of 2020. What does 2020 bring for the Maple Leafs? 9% are feeling down on the team already, same as 2019. 45% believe the Leafs are going to achieve new heights. It's vague when we talk about new heights. What are those new heights? How far can they go? Well, almost 50% of respondents believe that the Leafs are going to be better in 2020 than they were in 19. A quarter of all of our voters believe the Leafs can win the Stanley Cup. Finally, that's 25%, and another 21% believe it's too early to tell. Mm-hmm. Mr. Augello, lead us home with your final comments about that poll and anything else you want to add as the Leafs head to Winnipeg for their first game of 2020 on Thursday.
Well, I'll talk about the poll, because I think if you're talking about new heights, I think that's very possible. But remember, in the decade of the tens, they got to the first round of the playoffs 4 times and lost 4 times. They were the only Canadian franchise. I'm not trying to be down. I'm just stating the facts. They were the only Canadian franchise that didn't win a series in the decade. I think they'll win a series this year. It depends on who they play in the first round. If they finish in second place and they play Florida or Tampa, I think they have a good chance of getting to the second round, and that would mean then playing probably the Bruins. And that has its problems, as we know. But I think that they're a better overall team, and I think that they won't be limited like in certain instances they were under Babcock, where Keefe has, seems to have a handle on this team and how to play them, and they will have success. Now, anything beyond first round, it depends on how things break. Things broke for the Bruins last year. They played Columbus in the second round. If that happens, anything is possible. But I'm just saying, I think that they will win a round this year.
Things are going to get tougher for the Maple Leafs as the games unfold in 2020. Mike, remember when you're feeling positive, you don't know what you're talking about. And when you're being negative, what are you talking about, Mike? Seriously. OGs, Converse, thanks for all of your support in 2019. We're on to a new year. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, I don't know, maybe shoot us a 5-star review and a couple of comments there too. Every little bit of adulation and appreciation you can show us online means a lot to the bottom line for us. For Mike, I'm Norm. We out.